Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the one and only Monday Night Live. Drop in the chat, guys. Say hello. Make sure that everything that's technical over here is working correctly. Please confirm in the comments that the technical aspects of this live are working and you can hear me loud and clear. Let me know, as usual, which city you're tuning in from, whether you're joining us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Drop in the comments, and I'm just going to give you some time to drop in the comments. I want to make sure you guys are there. I'm coming to you today on Restream again. Restream are our sponsors for Monday Night Live. They're the streaming software I use. You can stream to up to 30 platforms with Restream. I find them very good. Like a lot of the chat, like you can see the chats from every platform coming in as I talk, which is awesome. Found them extremely powerful. So thanks and shout out to those guys. What's happening, Amelia? Thanks for joining us. Well, I can hear you on Facebook. Okay, good. Melbourne, good to see you. Hey, Nick, how are you? Look, the year's well underway now, isn't it? I've seen business has started to pick up. Everyone seems to be back from holidays. Things are humming along. I did a poll on LinkedIn last week and asked you guys what content you'd like me to cover this week for Monday Night Live. And I think one of the options was how to build a powerful LinkedIn profile, was content marketing, sales skills, and then one of them was LinkedIn lead generation, and it was very clear that LinkedIn lead generation was the preference for today's topic. It's about 47% I think it was, of 150 people said LinkedIn lead gen, which is timely, I think, because I've been doing some research lately as to the impact of the last year on marketing trends and what I anticipate to be the marketing trends that are going to be most important this coming year. And as you can imagine, like in terms of sales, so if we shift from marketing to sales a little bit now, the game has really changed, hasn't it? I mean, the guys that are going to be the top performers in the sales world, they really have to Ian, new microphone. It's not a new microphone, it's laid out a little bit differently. I've got this thing to make this audio a bit more even, so I hope that's working well for you guys. Yeah, virtual selling and virtual prospecting has become really important. Obviously, everyone's having a lot more Zoom meetings, a lot more virtual conferences. And I think that, it's easy to just jump on, Zoom call after Zoom call as a sales representative without stopping to think, okay, are the skills that are required to sell over Zoom, the same as what they would be in person? And there's been some research done, and they're not the same. Being able to engage people in a virtual scenario is very different. So that's one thing. And then also, like from a prospecting perspective, social selling, the importance of social selling is pretty much crucial now. Like being able to give people exposure and build a relationship with them virtually is really important, because a lot of the time these days, like when somebody's having a meeting with you, especially if it's virtual, they're very far down the sales cycle. You really want to be having some touch points with them before they get to that stage. Can you guys see Marshall there? Yeah, he's zonked out, isn't he? Marshall. Hey, Marshall. It's unlike him. Normally he's full of life at Monday Night Live. Good to see some guys from every platform. Is everybody on YouTube? Anyone joining us from YouTube? Jump in the chat. Very excited with what's happening on YouTube at the moment. We're getting a lot of traffic, a lot of people watching the keynotes on there. I guess that's where the longer form videos are, so I'm really excited about that. I'm going to do some content this year about YouTube and how you can use it for business. I think that's going to be really powerful. I know there's a lot of guys out there that talk about YouTube, but there's not that many in Australia, and a lot of them, are entertainers as opposed to business people. So I think I could add a bit of value with that whole YouTube story. Okay, so we've talked about the trends in 2021. So how do you generate leads on LinkedIn? Well, let's look at the options, shall we? So you can post content. So what are you going to do? Put up posts offering some value, maybe a call to action at the end saying contact me if you'd like more information for my services. The reality is, like with content, because it's so important that you need to get engagement on your content, and there's lots of signals that the algorithm look at. I mean, it looks at they call them viral signals? Yeah, viral signals, which are reactions like likes, comments, and shares. So those three are quite important. And then they also look at things like dwell time. So how long is somebody spending on your post? if they click on like read more, or they, watch how much of the video they watch. And then they look at like how likely they are to, each member's likely to enjoy your post based on like things that they're following, people they're connected to, their behavior even off LinkedIn. Unless you like unless you set it in your privacy settings so that LinkedIn's cookies don't follow you around the internet, they will, and they kind of know a lot more about you than what you just do on LinkedIn. So they use all that stuff to work out where things sit in the algorithm. So if you're putting like a sales offer out there, or offering a product or a service, the chances are like it's not going to trigger a lot of those signals for the algorithm to show it to many people. The alternative is you pay for sponsored posts and you put ads in front of people, which definitely is an option. And then you've got InMail, which is you pay to message people that are in your target audience, that may not necessarily know who you are. And the issue there is with the InMails, like it shows up in a bit of a different inbox. It's showed very clear that it's a paid marketing message. And of course, the issue with that is people tune out a lot more when it's obvious that it's paid. So I don't know about you, but when you log into LinkedIn, do you see these messages in your inbox, which are like, you're obviously sponsored, kind of sales letters? And, I'm curious to find out, maybe drop in the chat your feedback. Like, do you respond to some of these, to any of these messages? And then the third option I've got down here is, do you connect with people that are in your target audience? And then follow up with like this sales message, offering them a call or products or services. Now, the problem with that is, and you probably can relate, is there's nothing worse than when you just connected with somebody and they start selling to you right away. There's nothing that makes you want to click the, not unfriend, but disconnect button on LinkedIn quicker. So, this is a bit limited as well. So, we all know that LinkedIn is a powerful tool for lead generation, especially in B2B. 706 million members now, and it's growing at 3 members per second. So how do we use it to generate leads becomes the question, effectively, without being salesy, without annoying people, without jumping in for the sales pitch too early. So I've got 5 steps that I'm going to suggest here, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on each of these 5 steps as we go. So drop in the comments and let me know your questions as well as we go. I'm curious to find out, if there's any specific areas of lead generation that you guys are struggling with. But anyway, so before you do anything on LinkedIn, and I'm going to tell you like how to use this messaging and like content to generate leads. But before you do anything on LinkedIn, you need to optimize your profile. Yeah, awesome. Ian, thanks very much for that. Anybody else had the same experience as Ian? You can see in the chat there, there's never had a lead from LinkedIn. See, there's a right way to do LinkedIn and there's a wrong way to do LinkedIn. And I guess most people do it, the wrong way. And that's understandable. Like LinkedIn's set up to push its products, Sales Navigator, InMail, things like that, advertising. So there's limited resources out there to train you how to actually use it in a way that generates leads authentically. Anyway, so before you do anything, you need to make sure your profile is right, because if the profile is not set up correctly, the whole thing breaks. Good to hear, Paul. Yeah, I know you've done well with your leads. Property deals. Okay, I'll make sure I come back to that, Jay, for sure. Look, so optimizing your profile means more than just optimizing it for search results. It also means, like, if I'm a buyer, a potential prospect, and I come through to your profile, like, does it read in customer-centric language? Does it speak to the problem that I have? Does it outline the benefits of doing business with you, the value proposition, unique value proposition, and then does it tell me what to do next? The problem I've noticed on most profiles is they're set up how LinkedIn suggests that they should be set up, and it's based on your CV and your experience in different jobs and stuff, and that content is not necessarily designed to convert prospects into opportunities. So it should be like a website, in terms of, like, a website's designed to lead customers through their journey, but a more like a personal website. So when people come to your profile, it's like, hi, welcome to my profile. I have found that traditional marketing methods are no longer effective, and businesses need to embrace social media to remain competitive. I'm passionate about helping businesses achieve this. And so you're talking exactly to the customer, talking about their problem, showing that you understand, showing why you're passionate about what you do, and then you can go into a bit more detail. And even in the profiles that are focused on the customer, it's still very much like often it's very much about me. So it's like I won these awards, this, I am that. Like the customers may not care if you've won awards, which is interesting, right? Because it is part of what we're going to go through now, like building trust and social selling. But it's not the most important thing, I don't think. PJ, welcome. Ian use it to find a lot about people. That's awesome. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like a lead is just an introduction. It starts a conversation. And so whether you do it through LinkedIn or otherwise, like I think it's great to use LinkedIn as a tool to like find out some information before you start that conversation. So that's cool. All right, so we've covered the profile. That's step one. I've got 4 more steps for you. The second is your network. Now, it's important to understand, first of all, that the quickest way to increase visibility on LinkedIn is to have a bigger network, right? So when you do a search, the people you see first are your first degree connections. So if you've got 100 connections, like those are the pool that you've got to choose from when you do a search, and vice versa. Like those 100 people will be able to find you at the top of their search results, right? And then you see your second degree connections, which are people that are also connected to the people that you're connected to. You've got mutual connections. And then you'll see some of your third degree connections, but you won't see everyone on LinkedIn. Your search will be quite limited. So as you grow your network, you'll see more people in the search results, not less. A lot of people do a search and they say, oh, look, there's 500 dentists in Melbourne that I can target. But what happens is as you connect with some of those dentists, you'll actually see more people in the search results if you're doing a search again, a month down the track. LinkedIn's dropping out. That's no good. Lorraine, switch to Facebook. Well, look, guys, if you're finding that LinkedIn's cutting out, switch to Facebook or YouTube. That's why we're on 3 channels. Okay, so grow your network. I'm not suggesting that you just connect with everyone. It should be a targeted network. The more targeted it is, the better, because going back to the example of, let's say you're targeting dentists again, if you connect with 500 dentists, and then you reach out to number 501, he's going to see, oh, wow, this guy's connected to so many people in my industry. What am I missing out on? And the chance of them accepting that connection request goes up a lot. It's important to get over 500 plus connections. We've found that people respond to messages, respond to invitations a lot more often when you've got over 500 plus connections. So like in the, 10 years ago or whatever, people would look at credibility. They would look at things like, how many staff do you have? How big's the company? How many properties do you own? Things like this. Whereas now, like a lot of people will literally just look at like how many followers you have. So the way that customers are making decisions and the way that they're going through their buying journeys changed quite a lot. So it's important to keep that in mind. So grow your network's the second one. Here we go. Lorraine's getting some results. Good to hear. Well done. Coffee chat's brilliant. All right, so the third thing is messaging. So a lot of people go straight to content because on social media, right? If you look at Facebook, if you look at Instagram, and you look at these social media sites that may be more familiar with. I'm just looking at Amber's profile. Sorry, Amber's comment. Yeah, if you look at those sites, like a lot of it's to do with content. But when LinkedIn first started, you couldn't actually post content. They gave 200 influencers the rights to be able to publish articles. The guys like Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, etc. And no one else could. So the only reason we were on LinkedIn to start with was that we connect with people and we could message them. So it was more like a Rolodex of business cards than it was a content platform. And obviously that's changed, but I think a lot of people jump straight into content without thinking about the private messaging and the networking side of it. So number 3 out of my 5 steps is messaging. And this is where I lose a lot of people because a lot of people see the messages in their inbox and they go, that's spammy. I don't want to be spammy. I'm not like that. And to be honest, like I could not agree with you more. And I think the reason that the messages that we send for our clients, for example, cut through the noise so much is because they're not spammy. And how do you do that? And this is something that you might want to write down because it does require some thinking and you need to kind of ask yourself this every time you craft a message, not to assume that your prospect has the need for what you offer. So like, for example, if I connect with somebody who's got a legal business, and I specialize in getting legal companies to the top of Google, and I know I can get him a ton of leads by doing it. If I message him and say, hey, I noticed you got a legal firm, I could get your website to the top of Google, and I could get you more leads than anybody else. These are all my testimonials. This is all the reasons why. The chances are I'm not going to get a very good response rate, because I don't actually know if that legal firm has recognized a need to get to the top of Google. They might be like fully booked. They might get all their inquiries from referrals. I might not even be contacting the right decision maker. There's all these things that come into it, and it just may not be the right time. So like, if you want to show a bit of empathy, and I guess treat them like with a bit of respect, then you want to find out that information from them. So you can't really start talking about what you do until they've shown an interest. So what I suggest doing is try and take the conversation offline. It's always better to have a conversation over the telephone. I think a lot of people use social media as a way to procrastinate and avoid doing that, and they end up going back and forth on messages, because the truth is they don't really know what to say on the phone, and that scares them a little bit. So it's safer behind the keyboard, but you have less control. So I would suggest saying to that in that example, hey, I've noticed that you work in the legal industry, and there's some similarities between your business and the clients that I've worked with in the past. I'm really interested to find out more about what your objectives are, to see if there's any areas where we might be able to add value. Are you open to a conversation over the next few days? And so, one thing you can pretty much guarantee that most people are interested in talking about, it's themselves. And so if you show interest in them, you haven't said anything about what you do, but what will happen is, if they're intrigued enough, they will click on your profile, click on your name and read your profile. And obviously, if your profile is optimized, important step, going back to step one, then it should do its point. It should serve the purpose of being able to accurately explain what you do and the benefits, right? But the fact that they've clicked on your name to read the profile, it actually makes a big difference, because that's what we call a marketing and inbound activity, which means they've asked for the information, they've clicked. It's been their decision to go to the page. Therefore, they're more likely to consume the information when they get there, because they asked for it, rather than if you push the information on them in the message, which a lot of people do, as we've seen. And a lot of people I train, they'll get to the point where they're writing the message, and then everything I've just taught them goes out the window, because they feel like they need to justify why they're contacting them. But a lot of the confident guys, like in business, you'll notice that they don't explain who they are, because they just assume that they would know. And if you don't know, you would read their profile. So that's my take on it. Keep it very short, easy to read, respect people's time, try and get them on a telephone call. And if you do, you just say, thanks for making the time to chat with me today. The purpose of this call is for me to find out a little bit more about what you do. And, if we want to continue conversation after that, I can tell you a bit about what I do or something like that. I'm just going to read these comments here. Love that, Amber. Thank you. Jay, would you follow up if they don't respond? Look, the thing is, like, if you're posting content as well, people that are in your network are likely to see it, especially when they've just connected with you. Like, the LinkedIn algorithm sees the connection request and the acceptance as like a point of engagement between the two of you. So after you've connected with somebody, it's likely that your content will be part of their newsfeed. So if they're looking at it, they will see your content. So what I think it's easier to message somebody once and then keep connecting and send messages to new prospects. As you build your network, you may decide that you want to go back to some prospects on the basis that they could be a really high value, or on the basis that they've engaged with some of your content. But I think you want to avoid doing those, follow-up messages. Hey, just checking in to see if you saw my last one. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? You want to avoid coming across too desperate. I think if you're going to follow up, like say in 3 months or 6 months, you want to do something that adds value. So it might be like, hey, I was just thinking about you. I thought you'd be interested in, a copy of my new ebook. Let me know if you're interested. This is the title of it. And obviously it should be industry specific. Or, oh, by the way, we're having a webinar. Would you like to join us? Here's the link. So it's something like where you're adding value, or you've got a reason to contact them, other than, hey, I'm just wondering if you'd had a chance to reply to me yet. You kind of put yourself on the back foot when you start just following up for the sake of following up. Yeah, I agree. And I think that in terms of like following up's really important, but it's follow up once you've had that conversation, once they've recognized a need. Like following up with businesses that haven't recognized a need yet too much, like I don't necessarily agree with it. I know there's a lot of sales companies that do it, but I think we have enough information online now to be able to just focus on the ones that have established need, and all the rest, like just to consistently add value until they pop into the funnel. That's my take on it. I know Grant Cardone is quite proud of the salespeople who get like a cease and desist or told to, because they called companies too much, but I think there's a better way to do it. I think there's a more effective way to do it. All right, cool, guys. Thanks for all the comments. I love the engagement. So we've covered content. Oh, no, we haven't. We've covered profiles, networks, messages. All right, and then we're going to talk about social proof is the fourth step. So social proof is basically, the way that I describe it is when you go on a holiday and you want to go to a nice restaurant, maybe somewhere you haven't been before. I did this when I went to Queenstown in New Zealand. You could walk down the strip and you'd see one restaurant that's full of people, and you'd see one across the road that maybe has 2 or 3 people in it, and you quickly assume like the one full of people would have better food in it, right? And what's happening these days, as you guys all are very aware, people are using things like TripAdvisor or Google reviews to work all that stuff out before they even leave the comfort of their home or their hotel. With restaurants, and it's the same with hotels, and quite often they're checking out the price and stuff before, and they're looking at the reviews and looking how many people have consumed the products. And this is exactly what's happening with LinkedIn and your profile and your business. So you've got to think to yourself, like, if somebody's going to do business with you, and you've got to think about who your target audience is. Like in my case, quite often it's either the marketing manager or the HR manager. And so like their concern is, am I going to end up with egg on my face? Am I taking a risk by hiring this person? What is the chance that I'm making a safe decision here and I'm not going to get in trouble? And the way that you can show them that is you're like, okay, well, these are some recommendations. These are some case studies. These are some examples of like clients that we've worked with that are in the same industry as you. This is a problem they had, which generally would be the same problem. These are what they experienced, and you can't fake a recommendation on LinkedIn. Like the client actually has to submit it on your profile. And so having those things, even though they're quite far down the LinkedIn profile, are very important, because the people that are at the stage where they're thinking of buying, who are that far down the customer journey, will be looking at social signals like that. So it's very important to have social proof. And it's not just recommendations. Also, like endorsements on your profile, where the skills section is. Endorsements are very important. This is where things like credibility, like awards, groups, committees, things that you're members of become important. And even like there's a bias of it's like a positioning bias. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you call it, but like if you create content with let's say, for example, your clients truly admire, let's say Tony Robbins, for example. Let's say you're in the coaching industry, you help coaches get more business or something like that, and they admire Tony Robbins. If you go and interview Tony Robbins, the fact that you're in a video with him or the fact that you align with him will do wonders for your social proof. It helps build your credibility. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be like, this is a client, this is what they experience, but you can also build it by who you're associated with, who you connect with, what committees and groups you're a member of, things like that build credibility. Shows that you're active. And to be honest, like keeping your profile up to date, making sure that you post content on a regular basis help a lot. Like if somebody goes through to your, like it doesn't have to be LinkedIn, it could go through to your Facebook page and the last update was in 2012. It's not really helping at all, like them build credibility and build social proof. So just consider those kind of things. And then the fifth one is content, which I really like. I like content. Before I get on to that, I know that Lorraine's got a question here. Do you suggest drafting the recommendation for the client to approve? What I found works good is literally just asking the client. So I would say something like, hey, I really appreciate your business. I was wondering if you might do me a favor and write me a recommendation on my LinkedIn. If you like, I'm happy to draft up a couple of alternatives that you could use. So there's a couple of reasons why. So the first thing is somebody might want to give you a recommendation, but they won't know what you want them to write, and so they'll want to write something that you're going to like, and so it helps them hit that on the head. The second thing is it saves them time. because they could just literally copy it. If they feel, oh yeah, that's nailed it, they could copy it. Obviously, it gives you the power to be able to write it, but when you write it, like, it's not as easy as it may seem. Like, you want to focus on like one core benefit, or you don't want to write too much, because you try and cover everything, you lose people that are reading it. You want to focus on one benefit, and just have multiple recommendations that focus on different areas of your service that your clients are likely to have questions around, or objections around, or concerns around. Try and solve the objections with each recommendation. Hope that helps. All right, number 5. So we've covered profile, building your network, sending messages, social proof. Number 5 is to add value through content, right? I love this content thing. Like, the more and more I learn about it, the power of it is amazing, but it's like not so easy to measure in the short term. So a lot of people start, don't continue. A lot of people have mixed results, don't continue. To be honest, like, the content creators that are doing well, they're throwing spaghetti at the wall all the time. There's always having stuff that doesn't work. Post blogs to highlight our skills. That's great, Duncan. That's awesome. I think that a lot of the time, there's 2 reasons why content doesn't work for businesses. One is they don't necessarily understand the context of the social media channel, like where somebody is in the customer journey. So if you're not using ads, if you're just posting organically on LinkedIn, just remember that the majority of your audience is in the awareness stage. They're right at the top of the funnel. So you want to try and keep your content relatable to as many people that are in your audience as possible. The mistake a lot of people do is when they go to make content, they're like, okay, we're going to make 5 videos about this division of our business, 5 divisions about this division of our business, and we're going to do 10 testimonials with clients, and they invest all this money, and then they post it, and not many people are interested in it because it's too far down the customer journey. Whereas if they create more relatable content, which is more high level, it's going to relate to more people. And some of the great content creators like Gary Vaynerchuk, even Kerwin Ray in Australia, they actually post content at the top of the funnel that doesn't necessarily have much to do with what they do in business, right? So Kerwin Ray's well known for doing this about parenting. So like, he'll post stuff with his son about parenting because it relates to a lot of people. They get their relatability, and then they move further down the funnel, and then he starts posting more specific stuff about business. So on LinkedIn, just make sure it's catering for the awareness stage. And then in order to add as much value as possible, you need to be posting quite a lot of content. And I think the most important thing to keep in mind is here, it needs to be efficient. So if you're creating like each video every time you're going to do a post, and you want to be consistent. So even if you're only doing 3 a week, if you like have in your calendar Wednesday morning, I got to do a post. So you wake up and you're like, okay, what am I going to do my post about today? And you do 5 takes, and and then you add the subtitles, then you do the thumbnail, and then you post it. It's a very inefficient way of doing it. You'd be able to post 10 times as much content if you just created it in a more efficient way. So that what I suggest doing is using like a variation of Gary V's content model. And what this basically is it's a method of creating like a longer form piece of pillar content that can then be converted into micro content. So it could be like a webinar. You could film like, if it's a 60-minute webinar, could be a live like this, could be an interview. And an interview, by the way, is the easiest way to do it. Like this is how I do it with clients, is I sit down with them and I ask them questions that are designed to create engaging content. And each question is designed to create one video, really, micro video. So you've got this long form piece of content, then you've got like 20 short videos, then you go through it and you grab a whole bunch of quotes and you create 10, 15 images using canva.com, C-A-N-V-A, outstanding tool. And then you go through and write the captions, and then you might end up with, say, 50 pieces of content. You could do this all in an afternoon, easily, right? And so then you've got enough content for the next 2 months, but you still do the same thing next week. So you've got all this backlog of content. Like I've got, there should be one floating around, but I've got about 4 hard drives with content in them ready to go. So I don't really need to be thinking about creating content. I do it in batches, and then you learn to set up systems to work out like which content's performing the best, so that next time you do a batch creation of content, you do it about the stuff that people will engage with because they have engaged with it in the past. So you're not doing what you think's best on the day. You're doing what your audience wants based on what they've shown you that they're going to engage with. That's really powerful, really powerful. And as you're growing your network and as you're messaging people, you're building relationship, as you're building social proof, all these people in your network will start to see this content, as long as it gets a bit of engagement and as long as people read it, or watch the video. So there's that dwell time, the time people spend on the post. As long as you achieve those objectives, these people will continue to see your content for years and years and years And so I think a social database like your LinkedIn network is way more valuable than an email list, because at the end of every year, 40% of emails are different. They've changed. Whereas on social media, if somebody's email changes, they just change it in their LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile stays the same. So you're more likely to be able to reach them through content than you will through an email any day of the week. And so I think that's a huge opportunity. Do you suggest drafting the recommendation? Yeah, we've sort of talked about that. Is there any other questions that we've got? I've talked about these 5 techniques, and I think, the biggest one that people underestimate is the power of messages. Like sending those messages to set appointments is really, really valuable. Still works just as effective today as it used to. We've got clients in B2B, financial services, what else? Real estate, even retail, lots of different industries, even like B2C companies who are focused on creating like partnerships or distribution channels can do it really well from LinkedIn messaging. There's this fantastic way to do it. If you do all of these 5, together, you'll find that there's so much activity on your LinkedIn profile. And it just would make it so much easier for you because LinkedIn can see that your profile is getting more views because you're doing more outreach. People are replying to your messages. People are engaging on your content. Just anything you do will generally get more of a push because LinkedIn will see you as an active contributor to the platform. And so like every Friday in California, 10 a.m., the LinkedIn team meet, the senior product managers meet to discuss how they're going to make LinkedIn's the user experience better. And so I always think about how do I align my strategy with their strategy. So if their objective is to give their users a good experience, then my objective is to give my audience a good experience. That way, as they improve the algorithm, as they make changes, it's only going to help me because I've aligned my objectives with the platform. Okay, Jay, how would you market big real estate deals? $7 million pounds, land deal. So obviously, the first thing I would do is focus on who would be the the ideal buyer for a property like that. So it might be that it's going to be the hotel conglomerates. It might be commercial property owners. It might be investors. Investors is a good one. Like that's a keyword that a lot of people will use in their platform, in their profile if they are looking for deals. And then you use the search feature to find people that meet that criteria. And you may even have a list of prospects of companies or individuals that are actively buying real estate in the area, and you can track them down. But yeah, so you work out your profile, and then all you do is you contact them and say, g'day, Jay. Hi, Jay. I've noticed in your profile it says that you do this, or you're an investor. I've got an opportunity that I think you'd be interested in, but it's not likely to stay on the market long. Have you got a few moments for a chat over the next week? But if you send like hundreds of those messages out, you think about all the conversations, and you might hit somebody who's looking for an opportunity right at that point in time, who may have even heard of the development, and so those conversations will serve you really well. But just don't. I think the thing not to do is just send them a listing. Like, here, it's buy this. Like, I think you don't give them the information. You say you want to chat to them, and you say when you speak to them, you say, hey, so I noticed you're in this industry. Tell me, like, are you looking for more acquisitions at the moment? And so just find out, and then obviously if they are, and their profile of what they're looking for meets the development that you've got or the land opportunity that you've got, then say, would you like to hear about this opportunity I've got? And they'll say yes. They'll give you confirmation, and away you go. The commission on that would be sweet, Jay. So I hope it goes well for you, mate. You can send me a beer when it closes. All right, guys. No worries. You're welcome. Thanks very much for joining us here on Monday Night Live. Marshall has enjoyed this episode especially. By the way, if you do want more advice on how to get your LinkedIn prospects to reply to messages, there is on my website, bibbyconsultinggroup.com.au, a LinkedIn prospect kit, which I recommend checking out. There's also a profile optimization checklist. They're both free resources, so go and check those out if you do want a bit more guidance. Just reading the comments. All right, guys, you've been awesome. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week on Monday Night Live. Have a great week in business.